All right, we're now going to shift things over. We have standing by Joe Hill, who you all know and love. He's actually going to be joined with illustrator Gabe Rodríguez. They're going to both be in conversation with IDW's Chris Rael, talking about Locke and Key. Hey guys, thanks for coming in. Take it away.
Hey man, how are you?
How are you guys doing?
Do we have sound? Is it all there? Chris, you there?
Yeah, somebody needs to unlock my video, but I think I have sound now.
Yeah. And do you guys hear me?
Matt, if you can free up my video,
oh, there I am.
we're good to go.
Hey Matt, can you free up Chris's video?
It says the host to stop my video.
Land. We're just waiting to see if we can get Chris in here. Chris Ryle is there. He is.
There we are.
Hey,
there we
man.
are. Okay, so
Good
Matt,
to see you guys.
Matt just introed us. Yeah, good to see you, and thanks everybody for tuning in here. So Matt just introed us, so I can cut out the larger part of the intro. But yeah, I'm very happy to be sitting here alongside Gabe and Joe, co-creators of Locke and Key and co-pilots of an ambulance on the Locke and Key series too.
Yeah.
So before we jump into new plans for Locke and Key, the comic, I wanted to just talk to you quickly about the TV show and curious, what were your favorite scenes as far as taking the comic and translating it to, to the TV series? There's changes that had to be made, but what are things that you thought worked best going from print to screen?
Joe?
Well,
yeah, start with Joe.
It is true that Gabe and I both appeared in the TV show as ambulance drivers, and we also appear as ambulance drivers in the comic book, and that's definitely one case where the comic did it better, because in the TV show you're forced to contend with our actual faces.
Yeah.
Whereas when Gabe could draw us, we looked a little
younger
better.
And hotter.
Yeah. We were both about 15 pounds lighter.
Yeah. And
so,
15 years younger.
I mean, for me in the TV show, there's so much that I love. I think probably my favorite adaptation, my favorite element that was adapted was we did a chapter in Locke and Key called In the Cave. Is that right? Is that what it was called?
Yeah. Yes.
And Kinsey and her friends go down into the caves looking for clues about what happened to her father. And they get trapped down there and they nearly drown. And the TV show also does a version of that story with Kinsey and her friends, the Savini Squad. And I thought that the TV show, that's a great example of how the TV show could take something that was in the comic and keep it, but also reinvent it. So it had like a totally fresh feel. It wasn't the same as in the comic, and yet it still sort of captured the elements of that story that I thought were suspenseful and exciting. So that was cool.
Yeah. I think I'd go in the same direction as one of the things that caught my attention when I saw the show finished was the way in which Carlton Cuse and Meredith Averill and their team of writers and actors and crew managed to translate the idea of the head key into the show, because the head key is one of the most outrageous elements of the Locke and Key mythology that was absolutely untranslatable in the same way we did it in the comic into the TV show. So the way in which they managed to create a new language to get onto the same idea and the same concept and the same way in which it affected the characters and their story, but with completely different elements, was very fascinating to me to figure out that they realized a way to capture the essence of that concept and that plot device and turn it into a creative way into the TV show.
That would have been my other pick, was the use of the head key, for sure.
Yeah.
And I'd love to ask you guys and sit here and we could talk about some big spoilers for season 2, but we don't have quite enough time for that. So let's jump to the comics instead. There have been a couple one-shots over the last year or so for Locke and Key after the series concluded in 2013, but there's something new, a little bit longer brewing on the horizon, and curious if you want to jump into that. So Joe, you want to first talk about what is Pale Battalions? What is this thing we've been talking about?
Right. So we're
while you're talking, I'm gonna show a little bit of Gabe's artwork while you're talking. I don't think this image has been revealed at all just yet.
Yeah. Okay. So we're doing a 2-issue story called Lock and Key and Pale Battalions Go. No, you go ahead. Show them the cover again. Show them the cover. We can come back in a second. Yeah. So that'll be the cover of the first issue, and it's actually 2 issues, and the second issue will be a little bit longer than the standard 22-page length. And it's set around the period of World War I, and involves some characters we've met in some other stories. So in the stories Open the Moon and Small World, we met a version of the Locke family that existed in the house in the beginning of the 20th century. And the events of In Pale Battalions Go will set up another 2-issue storyline, which is this big, crazy Sandman universe crossover. We'll dip into the world that Neil Gaiman dreamt up for DC back in the 90s, and, you know, involving Morpheus and Death and Destiny and all the Endless. And I feel like the 2 worlds will, you know, go together like peanut butter and chocolate.
Absolutely.
Okay, so and Gabe, before we jump into anything with showing some of the interior pages here, discuss a little bit about this cover. What sort of research did you do? Where did you draw the the World War I reference from?
Well, I guess I had to thank the way in which the internet allows us to have an entire library of visual references to work in these days, because otherwise doing something like this would have been impossible, just to find the right reference for the way in which the soldiers dressed, and even a little girl from early 1900s. It's a challenge in itself, and to make it blend and look real and look vivid is the ultimate task. But yes, as Joe said, we've been discussing the ideas for this story for a while. I think the funniest part of all this Golden Age storyline, in which we developed the story of the Chamberlain Locke's family, has been a great way for us to help us like expand the mythology of Lock and Key and the possibilities of new keys and the way in which the keys have influenced this family throughout history. And we're naturally arriving to a larger story that's going to become like the finale of these period pieces that we've been doing, that started as an experiment, but they eventually started developing a story of their own. So in a way, these characters came through life through our work in shorter histories before, and now they're going to have like their big epic event in the finale of the story, now with Pale Battalions, and later with the crossover with the Sandman universe, which, as Joe said, is a very natural universe in which to relate the Locke universe, as the work that people like Neil Gaiman and Alan Moore and all the people from Vertigo did in the 90s was certainly a very important influence for us as authors and as comic readers. So for us, this is a way to say thank you to all those creators and editors that created these amazing worlds that inspired an entire generation of creators.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, and so I mean, I know people tuned in to hear about the story and see some art, but they really tuned in to see the 2 of you act. So why don't we get into a little bit of that, and let's reveal page 1 panel by panel, and let the 2 of you do what you do best, which is, you know, act out the performances here. So Joe, if you want to set the scene for everybody, we can
sure. So we're
off.
in a recruiting office in Toronto, in Canada, in April of 1915. And Gabe, you do. So it's John Locke has turned up there. Young Jonathan Locke has turned up there, and we have this guy we're calling Colonel Hughes behind the recruiting desk. Gabe, you go ahead and do John.
Yeah, sure. Here I go. Sir?
Are you the kid from the deli? I suppose you want the sandwich orders, eh? What's that one you do with the corned beef and tart pickles? That was a humdinger.
No, sir, no. I'm here to enlist. I'd like to kill some Germans, sir.
Don't we all? There isn't a day goes by I don't wish I was disemboweling some poor fella named Fritz instead of pushing paper. And how old are you, bub?
19, sir.
And scene. So this issue, like every single Lock and Key issue, is colored by J Photos. So what you're looking at here is J Photos' amazing colors over Gabe's art. And we have one other page from the issue that we'd like to show you, which isn't really a story page, but it's just gorgeous and really sets,
I love that
sets
so
the
much.
mood and feel. Yeah.
Welcome back home.
Hey,
Yeah,
so
so-
that's actually the inside the cover. That's actually the inside the cover image from the first issue of In Pale Battalions Go. Can we get that colored? Will it be colored in the? Normally we do those black and white, but is there any chance we can have that colored in the issue?
I mean, yeah, we should talk about the editorial role right now while everybody's listening.
That's what I thought everyone
Yeah,
would enjoy. Yeah, totally.
Yeah, let's do it. I mean, the more we can show Jay's gorgeous colors, the more we should.
How was my
So
Canadian
beyond
accent?
that, I'm sorry?
How was my Canadian accent? I was trying to do a Canadian accent for Colonel
Amazing.
Hughes. I was
We'll
trying to
let
do
the
the guys, remember
commenters-
Strange Brew? Hey,
We'll let the commenters on Facebook weigh in on that.
Yeah, it would be a more accurate.
hey, do we have
judges.
questions from the peanut gallery?
Yeah.
I think we will, but while we're checking on that, let's show a little bit more of Gabe's art here.
Yes.
Spoilers.
We are collecting every single issue of the main Locke story in one book, one of those big 1,000-page omnibus books, big hardcover books. And Gabe just did a brand new front cover, which you're looking at here, and a back cover, which we'll show you in a minute, but you're getting a bit of that in the background of on Joe's screen. Gabe, what were you doing here? Like, you've done so many Lock and Key covers. Like, how do you find your way into another cover like this that sort of sums up the whole series?
Well, in a way, it's to get back to work with the Locks and this universe. It feels so like natural and easy at this point. It's really a very welcoming experience to return here and try to new things visually, as the experience we piled working in other projects and stuff like that really show in a way that now I feel like I have more tools to deal with new challenges in terms of visuals and what we can see from a storytelling perspective and also from a design and illustration perspective. So it was really like refreshing and fun to return to these characters that felt like part of our own families right now, and to get back to them and try new things and make them look like in a way in which you can feel that the story is piled on their shoulders. So I tried to reflect all of that and have a lot of fun. In a way, it's trying to do these two covers. This cover and back cover was trying to capture the most of the fun that the Lock and Key story evokes. So I think in a way we managed to sort it out. I'm very happy with that.
So we have 2 minutes left. So let's try to hammer through some questions really quickly. Before I do questions, a quick comment from Heather Megan says, I love the Lock and Key series. Also totally walked into Joe at BookCon last year because I was looking at my phone instead of where I was walking. So at least doing things virtually this year, like she stays safe and doesn't have to worry about doing that again. First question, I'd love to hear about the collaborative process between Joe and Gabe, since that process varies so much between creators.
Yeah, I mean, I always say that we're like an old married couple where we finish each other's sentences. And, Gabe was just talking about how easy it was to draw the covers for the new compendium. And he's been turning out pages for Pale Battalions really quickly. And that kind of jibed with my own experience. I was really scared about diving back into Lock and Key for an involved storyline. It was one thing to do a quick little one-off or something, but a real story. I was a little worried. What if it's been too long and I can't come back? Thomas Wolfe said you can't go home again. Turns out he was wrong. It was actually really easy. It was like the easiest thing I wrote all year. It just felt like, oh yeah, I remember this. I remember how much I like this.
By the way, Canadian Ron McKenzie says, as a Canadian, Joe, your accent was passable and they will allow it. So
okay, cool.
Good to hear.
Let's see. There's a lot of compliments for Gabe's art, which we all agree with. Let me see if I have anything else to show real quick before we have to wrap here.
I'm disappointed that there's so much praise for Gabe's art and so little for my Canucker, my Canucker stylings.
I mean, you got the one. That's probably more than was deserved. So
look. Oh wow.
So we did a Lock and Key
thing.
coloring book a few years ago, but we're going to remaster it and do it in a new format, new edition, and represent Gabe's work all over again for people to be able to play with themselves.
I've seen some people do some really amazing work with those coloring books too. But people who've done some coloring just about give Jay a run for his money.
I see Matt's back on screen, so I don't know if we are winding down here or if we have a couple more minutes.
Yeah, sorry, I got to give you the virtual hook. I'll get my cane and
Okay,
yank
well,
off.
thanks again, everybody. Appreciate it. Appreciate it.
Hey guys, thanks so much. We had a blast. This was great.
Thanks so much. Great accent. You're a proud American Canadian. All right, everyone.
guys.
Thanks. All right, bye-bye.
Thanks for joining us. All right, we're gonna pass it over to we've got a little chunk from some Scholastic authors coming up right now. So,
Hello? Are you my